Hey there friends, it's Carly. Welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new here, and welcome to today's video, which is going to be my very first Q&A. So if you're ready to get to know me a little bit more, grab yourself a cuppa and let's get into the video. Alright, before we get into the questions, I just want to give like a little bit of a background on myself in case you're new to my channel and don't really know me that well. So my name's Carly, I'm currently 34, I'll be 35 on the 13th of June. I am a Gemini and I am very true to the Gemini traits. There are certainly two sides to my personality, but I am 100% introverted, which is why doing YouTube is definitely like a good gig for me, because I have no problem talking to the camera, but I am not a social butterfly at all. I like doing things with like one person or two people, but put me in a crowd of people and it's just not my gig at all. What I do like doing, however, is like cozy sort of things like reading, having cups of coffee, doing exercise like yoga or Pilates at home, not in a class, going for walks, going to the beach with float over waves because I'm not the best swimmer. And just spending time with family and friends, going on little adventures and just having cozy moments at home, trying to romanticize aspects of the everyday, especially cleaning and organizing, which is definitely one of my passions and one of the things that you will see quite frequently on this channel. I live on the south coast of New South Wales, which if you are not from Australia, picture Sydney on the east coast of Australia, and I'm from a small coastal town 3 hours south of Sydney. I've lived in this area my entire life and I've spent the last 10 years being a high school English teacher at the school that I went to high school at as well. I'm very lucky to have pretty much all of my family live like within 10 minutes of me, which is great. I am married to a man named Dave. He is a carpenter by trade, but he works in the building industry as a supervisor for a roofing company, and we've been married for 1 year but together for 8 years. And at the end of last year we just moved into our brand new home, and also at the end of last year we had our first baby, a little boy named Hunter, who is coming up on 4 months old. So a lot happened last year: marriage, honeymoon, baby, new house, and this year I am taking the full year off work and I am on maternity leave, and I'm very much looking forward to growing as a person, as a mum, and just having that time with my son and sort of exploring this area and appreciating those slow moments at home and out and about. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell. Some other random things: I love Harry Potter, Taylor Swift, and I've been a Swiftie since way back in the Fearless days, people. I am not new to the Taylor Swift game. I even went to her Speak Now tour in Sydney many years ago. My favorite types of movies and books are like thrillers and crime, and also love a good sort of rom-com as well. And yeah, I think that's the basis of me. That's sort of all the little bits and pieces, but I did get a whole heap of interesting questions on my YouTube posts and then also over on Instagram as well, so I'm very keen to get into those. We're going to be multitasking here because unfortunately time is not my friend. So my first question comes from Linda, and she wants to know, how has your perspective changed since having a child? And probably in a multitude of ways, but two of the things that kind of really stand out for me is, number one, I have really learned to embrace the slow. Hunter, for whatever reason, can't seem to connect his sleep cycles, so he's having these crummy little 30-minute sleeps a day, and I'm oftentimes spending just as much time getting him to sleep as he is sleeping. So my days are kind of monotonous and really revolve around his sleep schedule. So there's not enough room necessarily for like productivity and exciting things to happen, and sometimes I don't get much done at all, hence why I'm folding laundry while I'm talking to you guys. So I needed to be like a little bit less driven by productivity and perfectionism, which have both basically just defined my entire life, and a little bit more present, slow and intentional, and just forgiving with myself in that respect. If I don't get things done during the day, doesn't mean it's a write-off of a day, it just is what it is, and I just need to embrace that. So that has been one big sort of learning curve for me. And I guess the second thing, and this has not only been during motherhood, but also it kind of started during while I was pregnant as well, I just have no time for people's bullcrap behavior. In addition to being someone who is really driven by being productive, I have always been a perfectionist, a people pleaser, and a little bit of a doormat. But being a mother and being pregnant, I really just don't have time for it. So if someone is being rude, obnoxious, stuffing me around, if someone's trying to get me to do something that I don't want to do, typically I would just say yes to the thing, or I would just be silent and let them treat me bad or whatever. Now I'll tell people how it is. I'll tell them my thoughts and feelings in like a polite way, but yeah, I'm not gonna let anyone walk all over me anymore, because I just don't have time for that. As we've previously stated, I've got better and more important things to do than waste my time on people's crummy behavior or doing things that I'm just, quite frankly, not interested in doing. All right, similar to the motherhood train of thought, Wendy asked what sort of things that I have in place to handle the multitude of changes that I've experienced lately. And I'd say kind of the biggest thing would be having like a really good support network. Like Dave is very hands-on when it comes to Hunter, and as I previously stated, I have all of my family virtually living down here. My mum comes down a heap, so do my sisters. They come down and visit, my cousin. So I've had a lot of people around to help support me, not only as I'm entering into motherhood and all things to do with Hunter, but also sort of dealing with my own kind of mental health things. People that I can kind of talk to, bounce ideas off, debrief. I feel like that has been probably the biggest helpful thing, to be honest. And then Nash asked kind of like a similar question, which is, what does your typical day look like now, and how much different is it since having a baby? I'd say in some essences it's like extremely different, and some it's not. Like I've always been very much a homebody, so that's not necessarily changed, but I've also been someone who is very much driven by routine and productivity. Like I like getting up early, I like getting my things done, and yes, I am getting up early, but I'm getting up early to tend to the needs of a baby as opposed to tending to my own needs. And with Hunter's like little half an hour naps, it just means that I need to be kind of super creative and intentional about getting things done. So for instance, while I'm patting him to sleep, I'm mentally coming up with a list of all the things that I'm going to do once he is asleep. So just right now he's asleep. So in my mind, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to come out to the kitchen. I'm going to film some questions for my Q&A while folding up the laundry, while preparing my chair pudding. And then if I've gotten that done, then I'm going to go into the laundry and I'm going to fold up the clothes. Like I'm preparing in my mind so that I know what I want to get done with that time and use it productively, because half an hour is not really a long period of time to sort of get much done. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is I have never been much of a night owl, and I know previous to having a baby, I would really waste a lot of time during the night. Like, we like to eat dinner nice and early, which we still do, and that works in with Hunter's schedule fine. But let's say by 6 o'clock previously, I'd have had dinner, I'd have had a shower, and I would be like starting to watch a show, and I would probably spend, 6 till 9 just binge watching shows or like going on my phone and just wasting a crap ton of time. Now Hunter goes to sleep anywhere from 6 till 7:30 at the latest. As soon as he's down, I'm having my shower and I'm using like until like 9:30 to be productive and make sure I've like set things up for the day. So I'll have gotten my clothes out, I'll have set up my morning breakfast station, I'll make sure that the kitchen's clean, the dishwasher's on, the washing machine's loaded, ready to be put on the next morning. I'll go into my filming room, I'll read a chapter of my book, I'll do any editing, I'll catch up on a YouTube video, I'll journal. Like that time from like 7 till 9 is really my time, and not necessarily my time to be productive, I wouldn't say, but my time to fill up my cup, pour into myself, and really set myself up for the next day. And typically I would not do that at all. So that has been a major change to my routine, and it's just made me think about time a little bit differently. Like, we all have the same amount of time during the day, and I feel like I don't have time is kind of a cop-out, because I know just for myself, previous to having Hunter, and even still now, I waste a lot of time during the day scrolling on social media. And maybe for you that is sleeping in, or it's binge watching a show, or it's like whatever it might be. Think about the day and where you allocate your time to. I guarantee if you cut out any like sort of time wasting activities, you would gain back minutes, hours even. So it's more important for me to have that time to just sort of pour into those, kind of cozy activities and really just getting set up and pouring into my mental health than it is to waste it binge watching TV, really. I wrote all my questions down in this little journal. So over on Instagram, Lily Rose, who was one of my lovely, talented and very kind students, what are your future career goals? And kind of similar, Nat wanted to know, can you use your content creation skills or hidden talents to find a flexible role that works around your parenting? And honestly, my future career goal would be to, I guess, scale my YouTube channel and be able to do this as like a full-time job, so that I can essentially work from home, create content around my life, and things that are going to be hopefully helpful and inspiring to others. And I feel like that will work into my time and my routine as a parent, because it'll let me be able to stay at home and spend that quality time with Hunter. Obviously, this is something that does take time, and a lot of it's kind of out of my control, because I can put up consistent videos, I can try and create quality content, I can try and create things that are going to be interesting to people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to watch it, or the people are going to subscribe. So I'm putting like a lot of responsibility externally rather than what I can like physically do to help drive this myself. And I do definitely think that like hard work, creativity, and having a message or a vibe that people can relate to or find like interesting is super important. But I also think a lot of it's kind of luck of the draw, which sort of sucks, because I'm the type of person that really likes to work hard and kind of have control over my outcome. And I have been doing YouTube for quite some time now and haven't really been able to have too much control over how much growth I have or don't have. So nevertheless, this is something that like I really love doing and I would like to do in like a more monetized capacity, I suppose. And when I think about my hidden talents, I definitely think like creativity is one of my talents, but I also think teaching is clearly a talent. It's something I've been doing for the last 10 years. So if I kind of fuse those together, maybe at some point I could create an additional channel that is a little bit more teaching or study based. Maybe it might be about like, you know, reading books, or it might be about like very specific study skills and like text analysis. I don't know. Like at this point, I really want to move away from teaching, which was actually another question. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm not sure if it's Roche, as in like maybe short for Rochelle or Roche. Are you going back to teaching, and what are the biggest challenges you face as a teacher in Australia? And if I'm going to be completely honest, I would like to not go back to teaching. I've obviously been doing it for 10 years. I like to think that I'm actually a good teacher. I pour a lot of myself emotionally into the job, and I show up each and every day in that classroom and give my all. And I think that, you know, the kids know that I genuinely care about them and their education. So it does take a lot out of you. So what are the biggest challenges of being a teacher? I would say 3 big things for me are behavior of the kids, the workload, particularly the amount of useless paperwork and useless meetings that you need to go to, and the lack of support from within the school and outside of the school. During my first couple of years of teaching, the hardest thing for me was getting my head around the content and getting my head around behavior management. And obviously after 10 years of experience, I mean, you still have like struggles with behavior all the time, but I've got a range of strategies I can use to deal with that now. And as things have gone on, it's really just been the stress of the job and that lack of support, and that has kind of translated into even sometimes bullying and harassment from other teachers and members of staff that have really created like a sour taste in my mouth about the entire teaching industry. I have definitely found that sometimes the behavior of teachers is actually worse than students. So I don't want to go back to being a teacher. At this point, it will really just depend on our financial situation and whether we can sustain me not going back to full-time work. If I have to, I would prefer to just go back to teaching casually, because a lot of those administrative tasks are not sort of necessary in the day-to-day casual scheme. But really my passion is scaling my own business, creating here on YouTube and bringing content that's going to be helpful and inspiring to you guys, because I really feel like I'm making a difference in that realm. And I know that I have made a difference over my last 10 years of teaching, but in all honesty, some days it's really hard to see that, especially when you have so many people who are just not appreciative of the time and effort that you put into creating like quality lessons, and they just tell you it's crap or it's boring or whatever. They hate English. On a more positive note about teaching, Ren wants to know what are some of the best and worst aspects of being a teacher. Obviously, I've talked about some of the negatives, but there are a lot of positives, which is what has kept me in the industry for as long as I have been. Obviously, I'm super passionate about my subject area, English. I love reading. I love being able to get in front of a class and just read a book out loud to them, and I feel like the kids love that too, because it's kind of sort of nurturing like a parent, and it makes them feel like, you know, they're at home in bed and their mum's reading them a bedtime story, and they just love the, I guess, soothing, relaxing, quiet nature of that. I love being able to talk about texts and discuss them and, you know, get like a heap of different ideas. And but the biggest thing for me is just those kids who really want to learn and really want to try, and will come up to me and be like, how can I improve? Or, you know, putting in that extra effort behind the scenes to, you know, get better results or improve the quality of their work. I mentioned before Lily Rose, she was one of my students. I had her for year 11 and 12, amazing student. Just would put in that work and really wanted to learn. And I have so much time for kids like that, whether they're gifted or they're struggling. If you want to go well, I've got time for you for sure, and I'll come in early and I'll give up my lunches and I'll stay back late in the classroom. And even those kids that like to stay after the lesson when it's recess or lunch and they just want to have a chat and just talk to you about different things, like that's really nice. And there are more sweet kids than there are rude kids, but unfortunately it's the ones that are lazy or rude or entitled or disrespectful that kind of leave that sour taste in your mouth, and they're the ones that you end up remembering at the end of the day. But I always need to remind myself about the kids like Lily and how many great, particularly senior classes I've had, because by the time they hit year 11 and 12, you think that, you know, they're intending on staying at school for a reason, you know, they want to be there, they've chosen English standard, you know, they want to get something out of it. So they have that little bit more drive and a little bit more maturity, and you can have those deeper conversations with them. So there's some things that have made it worthwhile for me. And Bren also asked, do I think that the industry has changed since, you know, I first started? And I would definitely say yes. I feel like the behavior has gotten worse. The consequences for behavior have gotten less. And the kind of just the nature of teaching has changed so much. Obviously with COVID and online learning, it really just changed how we teach and how we think about, you know, learning. But unfortunately it's also changed the kids as well, because, you know, there are some kids that sort of missed out on 2 years of school because they were at home by themselves with no one to supervise them sometimes, and just running rampant around town and weren't really, you know, either connecting with that online learning space or paying attention or whatever it may be. Or maybe the whole situation was, you know, giving them a lot of anxiety or mental health concerns. I know that was the case for a lot of kids. And so that's created a bit of a fallout as well, and means that we sort of, as teachers, we need to do a bit of catch up because there are so many gaps in their knowledge. And the other thing I would say is that the workload has definitely increased. In Australia, there's been like a big push about you know, increased pay for teachers, and people are up in arms about that. Why do teachers think that they need more money? And I think if you actually spoke to any teachers, they would say, look, we don't really care about the money. How about you just change our working conditions? Give us less like useless administration, meetings, reporting, paperwork, duties. Like, take us off some face-to-face classes so we actually have time to properly plan and, you know, do some professional learning. And actually, I'd say most teachers are in it because they have a love of learning themselves, but no one has the time to actually, like, you know, sit down and brainstorm and have conversations with people about what are you doing, what's a great text, and actually growing as teachers and professionals themselves. And I feel like that is what is missing for a lot of people. So yeah, that's been a big change for me. And you'd think after 10 years things would be getting easier as opposed to harder, but no, that's not necessarily the case. I've got 2 more questions from Ren, so thank you, Ren, for all your questions, providing some quality content over here. So the first one is, what's it like living in a small town, like the best and worst for things, and my favorite places? I would say the best thing for me is, you know, the quiet and peaceful sort of nature. It's like super easy to create, you know, those connections with people and build relationships with people. Like moving into this neighborhood has been so good because we know like all our neighbors by first names, and we have like little conversations over putting our bins out and whatnot, and that is so like wholesome and heartwarming to have like that real sense of community. Obviously this town's getting a lot bigger and there's a lot of more new people here now, and so the connections are kind of fading a bit, but that's definitely one of the things that I loved growing up, that you feel that sense of connection and community here. I also live in like a truly stunning area with like beautiful beaches, bushwalks, farmland, lakes. Like that has been lovely as well, to be able to just like easily go out and access nature and connect to nature and experience it. In terms of negatives, I would say 2 things, particularly as a young person. There's like not a lot to do here. If you're retired, or you know, you're a bit older and you're like maybe going out to restaurants, cafes, things like that, that's fantastic. Or if you're like super into nature, then there's heaps of options as well. But as a young person, like we don't have like a heap of entertainment or shopping or things like that. And then the second thing I would say is that the town or the area in population is growing a lot quicker, and the resources and services have just not had the time to catch up. So we have like not enough hospitals, not enough aged care facilities, not enough preschools, not enough schools, not enough parking, the infrastructure, like things like that. Just have not been able to keep up with the speed with which the town has been growing, and it makes like holiday time an absolute nightmare. Just like getting anywhere, finding a park anywhere has been crazy. You've got to be very strategic about it for sure. And it's also meant like I've been very lucky as a teacher. There's like one high school here, or you need to go 40 minutes in either direction. I've been lucky to be able to, 1, get a permanent job, and 2, get a job that is like secure and pays well. If you don't have like, you know, a pretty decent permanent job here, like it's very casual, limited like work options, mostly in sort of the hospitality industry. So the like pay versus the rent / mortgage / house prices here is not on the same scale. And I guess that's another thing, like the rental properties, like you are hard pressed finding a rental. So I mean, I've been super lucky in my circumstances, but if you were just someone moving to this town, you know, you're not retired, you are looking for a job, maybe you've got kids, I feel like there would be a lot of things that you would need to think about, and maybe some challenges that you would come up against. In terms of my favorite places, there's like a whole heap of like really cute cafes. Like I love going to some of the cafes in Milton. I've got a cute cafe down in Burrell Lake, Rosie Oats, that I love going to. Beaches, I love the Bommy. I love just even going to Burrell Lake Inlet. I also just love JIS Bay as well. I was so lucky to live up there for 7 years. Huskisson is great for cafes and like cute little boutique shops. Buddery National Park is fantastic for bushwalks and beaches. There's like a fantastic walking track that goes all the way from Huskisson to Hymes Beach. I've got like an entire best of JIS Bay video if you want to go check that out. But I am super blessed to live in this area. Like I could go into so much detail listing like all of my favorite things. Like I feel like that needs to be a completely different video. And then the last question, also from Ren, was about my YouTube channel. When did I start my YouTube channel? Why did I start it? Like, how has it sort of came about? I started it, I think, in 2018. I've been doing YouTube for about 5 years now. And you can go back all the way to like my first videos. Go back, I dare you to watch them. They were pretty terrible. I filmed them on my phone. The quality wasn't great in terms of filming. I now have a subscription to Epidemic Sound, which means like I can have like nice songs in the background, but back then I didn't have that, and I just had this little editing app on my phone, and whatever music was like preloaded into that app is what I used. And then for a long time I also used the YouTube Studio Music as well. And then for my 30th birthday, Dave bought me the Canon G7X, which is the camera that I'm filming on now. And I was able to upgrade from my phone to that. And then I was also able to upgrade to iMovie for my editing. And then a couple of years ago, I got my Epidemic Sound subscription to get my music as well. So there has been an evolution in terms of the quality of my filming and editing. And why I started it was just to have like a bit of a creative outlet, to do something different, to share, I guess, tidbits of my life, and exploring with, you know, a wider community. And I think my only regret in terms of YouTube is that I didn't start it earlier, particularly because like if I had started it a couple of years earlier, there was like so many fun trips that I went on that I could have filmed. Like my sister Lily and I went to Hawaii, Shayla and I went to Italy, I did like a big Europe tour, I went to Bali twice. I would have loved to have filmed those trips and be able to not only share them with people, but also have the memories, because one of the, I guess, biggest takeaways or benefits for me for YouTube is that I can go back and watch aspects of my life and like those highlight moments. I can watch the moment I found out that I was pregnant. I can watch my wedding day. I can watch the trip Dave and I took up to Darwin and be able to reminisce on those times, and the amount of times I've sat down with family and I'm like, oh, okay, so that day trip we went on a couple of weekends ago, I've edited the video, I put it up on YouTube, let's sit down and watch it. And even still now, I'll sit down with my sisters and we'll watch aspects of our America and Canada trip that we took like at the end of 2019. So that is so much fun. So being able to have the memories and being able to share just like something positive and something inspiring with people is why I started YouTube and why I continued it. Like the amount of times where I've spent ages filming and editing a video and it's got like barely any views, and the amount of times where I've just thought, oh, is this like a waste of my time? I poured so much time and effort into it. Do I just like give up? And I'm so glad that I haven't, even if growth has been slow, even if, you know, sometimes I wonder, like, does anyone even care? I'm really glad that I have stuck with it for this long, and yeah, hopefully it's something that I can continue to do. So speaking of which, if you do have any video suggestions, make sure you leave them down in the comments below so that I can continue to create content that is helpful and inspiring. But that is all my questions for today, and given the fact that my little boy likes to sleep for 30-minute stretches, I am due to have a wake up anytime soon. So I need to get ready for him and wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for, one, putting in your questions if you did. Those people who put in questions, I see your names pop up in my comments time and time again. I see you, I appreciate you so much. But if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. up, and don't forget to subscribe down below. I put out new videos every single week. With that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye guys.